Well, Dawn, welcome to the Lou Schmitt guided tour of Dutch Hill.
Yeah, thanks for taking time to do this.
No problem.
This is pretty cool.
This is the neighborhood I grew up in. We're right now at the top of Dutch Hill. We're at Prospect Park. So I'm going to take you through the old Dutch Hill neighborhood, which is the old German neighborhood here in Altoona, and show you some of the sights and take you to some of the places where I have so many memories from being a boy. And I'm going to drive very carefully.
Okay.
We're on film. So we're heading down the alley here toward the Bavarian Aid Society, which really is a Bavarian Aid Society. It was a charity that was formed by Bavarians when they first came here to work on the Pennsylvania Railroad, and it provided aid to subsequent waves of immigrants from Bavaria who came here, many of whom worked on the railroad, including my grandfather, Johann Schmitt, who left Germany in 1907, Bavaria, to come here to work in the Pennsylvania Railroad. And then my father, Lou Schmitt Sr., went to work in the Pennsylvania Railroad in 1940, worked there until 1982 when he retired. And my Italian grandfather, I have a German grandfather and an Italian grandfather, my mother's father worked in the Pennsylvania Railroad, worked for the Pennsylvania Railroad as a welder. My father-in-law worked for the Pennsylvania Railroad, and my wife's grandfather.
Wow, so family of railroaders.
Well, all the generations in Altoona in those days were railroaders. I know that.
Oh, hey.
It's hard probably for me to run into anybody up here. I don't know. And I always say that the Schmitts have never left Dutch Hill. And so my German grandparents are buried right here in St. Mary's Cemetery. And if you want to go see, I'll show you.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, my grandfather was born in 1886. My grandmother was born in 1884. That's why I say the Schmitts will never leave, because we're still here.
That's true. How do you think the family and the deep roots here shaped you?
Well, it was a tough neighborhood, and it was a railroad town, and all I knew in those days was the railroad. In fact, if your dad didn't work for the railroad, we wondered there must be something wrong with you. What do you mean your dad works at the post office? Couldn't he get a job at the railroad?
Yeah.
So I always say that people, when they're children, they fall asleep, and they fall asleep to the sound of lullabies or whatever. I fell asleep to the sounds of boxcars banging and train whistles. So the railroad's been in my blood. It's been in my family since we arrived in this country 114 years ago. And I think growing up in this neighborhood toughened me up, because it was a tough place. A lot of kids got in a lot of fights up in this area, but I had a lot of fun too. I had a ball growing up in this neighborhood. It was a great neighborhood for kids back in the 60s and 70s. I'm going to take you down to one of the blocks that I lived on as a boy growing up.
Okay.
This is the 1400 block of 2nd Avenue. We were very poor when we lived on this block. Of course, we were pretty poor throughout my childhood, but we were very poor when we lived here. We didn't have a phone. So we used to have to, whenever we had to make a phone call, we would come down here to this house here because they had a phone. Oh. So my mom would say, get down and use the phone, call your dad or whatever, and I would get down and call my father on the phone from those poor people. I would get out and they'd be eating supper, I'd knock on the door, can I use your phone? Because we didn't have a telephone.
Well, at least they were helpful. They
were, and they were good-hearted people. This is the first place I played organized basketball. Right
St. Mary's Memorial Hall.
This was it. This was the convent back in the day. And of course this was St. Mary's parochial school. This is where I went to parochial school from 1st grade through 6th grade. Of course we have the high school here. I went to Altoona High School. It didn't look anything like that. But Roosevelt Junior High was right down where that football field is down there.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was Roosevelt, and that was my junior high school. And I really loved Roosevelt. My wife said to me, you know, when you're gone and they're going to bury you, and I want to put a basketball uniform in your coffin with you. Do you want a St. Francis uniform? Because I played college basketball at St. Francis. Or do you want an Altoona High uniform? And I said, I want a Roosevelt uniform.
Oh.
I want a blue and white Roosevelt uniform, because that was where I really kind of got good at basketball, and it really made such a huge difference in my life. On the left side was where my first girlfriend lived. And the highlight of the whole tour.
The highlight.
The highlight of the whole tour. She lived with her grandmother. And, you know, we came around the corner one time, right here.
Right here on this corner.
That was where I kissed.
4th Avenue.
First kiss. First kiss to girl was on that corner right there. Around the corner, around the house, the basement of the house, so that the grandma couldn't see us. Snuck around there, and it was one of the highlights of my life.
They should put a plaque up or something. I don't know why they haven't so far.
I don't think the girl is bragging about it.
No?
I don't think so. And this was the block I grew up on. From 1980 until I went off to college. I'm sorry, 1970 until I went off to college in 1980. I lived here. I played so much basketball at this little hoop my dad had put up in this alley on this side that when I shot downhill, I had to kind of pull the string a little bit. I couldn't shoot as far because if I missed, I had to chase it the whole way down to 6th Avenue. And of course, shooting uphill, I had to shoot a little bit harder because I was shooting uphill to get it to the hoop. So my whole career, I was always long from the one corner and short from the other.
That's why you were so good.
Because I had to shoot from different terrain, which is why I was so good, such a good shooter.
Yeah.
And this was the place. This was where I really spent a lot of money up here on this basketball court. Many games, playing against a lot of the kids in the neighborhood, and then other people would come and
I should take a picture of that.
yeah, this is the place right here. This is it. This is it. This is where I worked on my basketball game. This was the place where I put in the hours that made so much of a difference for the rest of my life, really. So we're going to turn right up here. Right where this truck is parked. In June of 1966, my mother was renting a house here, 1901 West Chestnut Avenue. Playing with my sister, Sally, who was a year younger than me, and we were running through the house, ran out the door, and I didn't know this until recently when she told me. She slammed the door shut and she kind of held it. Well, of course, I'm running full speed. I get to this door and I hit the storm window, the bottom part of the door frame. How you doing?
Everyone knows you.
Everybody knows me. Doesn't mean they like me. They know me. And so I hit the door with my hands. When I did, the door shattered and my momentum took me through the frame.
Oh.
And of course, the bottom, there were all these shards of glass, and I landed with my abdomen my belly right on these shards of glass.
Oh my goodness.
And I was impaled. And I was too small to get any leverage on my hands or my feet to push myself off, so I just sank. My body the weight of my body just pulled me down onto these shards of glass, razor sharp shards of glass. And I would have been. And so my mom got me off the thing, and it was all this tumult going on around me, and I thought, this is it. I'm not going to make it. And just as I said that, a car flies up onto this sidewalk, and a woman jumps out of the car and says, "Get him in, we'll take him to Mercy." As it turned out, the woman was in that house right there on the corner.
Oh, wow.
And she was out watering she had flower boxes on the front porch. She was out watering her flower boxes when I crashed through that door, and she did not hesitate to jump in her car. And to this day, I have no idea how she possibly could have gotten my blood out of her car, because my blood was everywhere in that car. It took 144 stitches for them to close my wounds up. And for instance, it saved my life. And she came into my life and was gone. She was in my life and did one thing, saved my life. And then I never really saw her again after that. And she's like, I can't believe that's accidental. It's just, it can't be.
We have a lot of young people that come to United We Can, and so we'll probably have a large group there. So what are your thoughts, for them, knowing all of that? You came from, this area, all the pride that was in it, and how times have changed. What are your thoughts for them?
I've thought quite a bit about the difficulties that we face now in today's world. And the only solution that I can really think of is that it's up to each and every one of us as individuals to live a good life, to live a virtuous life, to have integrity, to care about the people around us, to care about our communities, and to model that kind of a life for others. Because I think if we don't do that we're going to have a difficult time continuing to preserve the American way of life. I think we've been kind of lucky. My generation hasn't had to go to war. My generation hasn't had to really give up much, if anything. And I think the people my age and the people younger than me have to understand that that's got to change. And I really think that's the answer.
Well, that's good advice. I couldn't agree more.
Yep. We have to start caring about each other.